President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. We would like to hand over to the co-prosecutor to continue putting questions. You may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon, Your Honours. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Rossoy. Before the break, one of the topics we were discussing was the study sessions that you attended with Nguyen Chia and Q Sampan, and you talked about some of the topics that were covered in those sessions. Now, just to expand on that, I want to take you or read to you a brief excerpt from that DCCAM interview that we've been looking at, and see if we can throw more light on these sessions. So that document is 19.158, and the ERNs are Khmer 00008306 to 07, French 008994474 to 5, and English 007105332. And I'll read 2 or 3 brief extracts, and then I'll ask you some questions. First, in relation to Sao Pim, you said the following, quote, "I knew about it when I was called to study politics. There, they spoke about who were the traitors, which string and level were arrested, and in order to suppress it, we must keep an eye on the hiding elements and strings that had infiltrated in us." And you say further, "I knew from them in the study session. For example, they told us that although we had arrested some of them in the string, its network still existed. They told us that they were monitoring the situation constantly. They published that information in the document like the 5 Flags Journal." Now, if I can stop there, who was it that taught you these things?
Response. After the study sessions, I heard Sao Pum was a traitor, and that was told to us by Mr. Nguyen Chia during the study sessions. And regarding the monitoring of the network of traitors, this matter was also raised during the sessions. Nonetheless, I have no interest in following up what could have become of those people.
When you say this was followed up in sessions, which sessions? Are these sessions held at state warehouses, or are they sessions held at a different location?
Response. The sessions were conducted on the dates I don't remember, but they were conducted sometimes at Unalaum Pagoda, Borei Kaila, or the Olympic Stadium.
And were these sessions that Nguyen Chia presided over or other people?
Response. Nguyen Chia was lecturing the sessions. However, there were other people who started the introduction and the formality of the sessions before he got the floor.
Were other senior people from the party present during these sessions?
Response. I do not know the senior leaders. There could have been some of them in the sessions, but I just do not know them.
And were these sessions held at the same time or at the same place as the sessions that were taught by Khieu Samphan?
Response. The sessions were not on a regular basis. Sometimes we had to attend the sessions at Borei Kila, sometimes at the Olympic Stadium.
But were the sessions that were taught by Khieu Samphan, did they occur at the same time as the sessions that were taught by Nguyen Chia?
Response. No, they weren't. They were not occurring at the same time.
I want to look briefly at another topic before we return to the question of enemies. And it's the issue of the operation of the warehouse or the warehouses where you worked. One topic that you discussed earlier with my colleagues on the opposite side was exporting of rice. And to build on that, I'm going to read to you a brief passage from the DC Cam statement and see if we can again shed more light on the issue of what was being exported and how often. And this is a discussion of the Kilometre 6 warehouse. The document number is 19.158. The relevant ERNs are starting at Khmer 00008289 to 90, French 00899 to 9, and English 00710 to 9. You were asked the following question: was any rice being exported overseas? Answer: yes, it was. Question: a lot? Answer: each time over 60 to 100 tons were sent out. I knew that it was exported to Canada and Hong Kong. I knew about that because on the stamped seal receipt it said this amount of rice had to be transported to Kampong Som. Now, a little bit further down on the issue of quantity in particular, you describe how the packing of this rice was done, and you say the following: The machine in the rice mill at kilometre 6 could be used to adjust rice quality automatically. And then further down, the grains flew into the sack which was set up in line. When one sack was full and reaching the weight of 101 kilograms, the machine automatically dropped it on the ground and then picked and filled up the next empty sack. The weight of the rice grains itself was only 100 kilograms, and the weight of the sack was 1 kilogram. That machine could pack 1,600 to 1,700 sacks of rice each day. Is that correct, that rice was being packed in this manner with the use of a machine filling sacks of 100 kilograms?
Response. I wish to also clarify few things that is the real statement I made.
Thank you very much. Now, you further down in the same statement, you say the following, quote, "If we operated only one rice mill, we would not be able to meet their demand." And further down, that was why all 4 to 5 rice mills had to work at the same time constantly. Is that also accurate, that there were in fact 4 to 5 machines that were constantly working to pack rice into these sacks of 100 kilograms?
Response. Yes, it is correct.
In this same part of the statement, a little bit further up, you said the following, you were asked the following question: was rice dispersed to any zones or units? Answer: in Phnom Penh, every ministry and office came to get rice from that warehouse. And just if you can confirm that for us, that also ministries and offices in Phnom Penh received rice from the same warehouse at kilometre 6.
Response. Yes, it is correct.
And in all of the instances, was it the case that such disbursement had to be approved by Office K25, which you described earlier, or was there a different procedure?
Response. Only K25 would be the office that issued such a request for rice to be distributed.
And did I understand your evidence that you gave earlier correctly, that there was never an authorization or a disbursement of rice to the zones? Did I understand that correctly? And please correct me if I didn't.
Response. As I already stated earlier on, this rice would never be transported to the zones or offices. They had to be stored at the warehouses before exporting.
Now, if I can discuss one other matter that you testified about this morning, and it has to do with visits by leaders to the warehouses. We touched on the individual called Dawn, and you discussed him in this DCCAM statement that we've been looking at. And this is at Khmer ERM 00008356, French 008995202-1, and English 00710-571. And you said the following: each time the big shot like Dawn came, he called me to meet with him and asked about the number of things stored in the warehouse. Is that a correct recording of your statement, that from time to time Dawn would visit and ask you to report to him about the things that were stored in the warehouse?
Response. I do not recollect the detail of this. I don't remember who would come to do the inspection at the warehouses, but I knew about this only after the persons went back.
Well, can I just insist on that? Do you recall whether this individual, Dawn, ever spoke to you and asked you to inform him about what was stored in the warehouses?
Response. Yes, I was asked about this. I don't remember everything. Nonetheless, I think your question rings the bell, and Dun was a handicap. I remember that he was a handicap and he came to the place.
Thank you. In fact, you say the same thing in your statement about his limp. Now, 2 pages down from this section, you're discussing Khieu Samphan's visit, and you said that he went around checking on the works at the warehouse. Did Khieu Samphan come to visit during... Or let me ask you this first. Who was Khieu Samphan coming to visit with? Was he alone or was he accompanied by other people?
Response. I don't remember this, but I can assure you that he came to do the inspection at the warehouses. And I noted that he did not have a modern vehicle to ride to work. He was seen coming to work with a flip-flop, pairs of flip-flop, for example, and taking lambretta.
Thank you. You also say in that section that Nuon Chia came to visit. Did they visit together or did they visit separately?
Response. No, these two people never visited these warehouses together, or perhaps they could do that on other occasions when I was not there, so I can't say for sure about it, but when I was there they never came together.
How often did Khieu Samphan come to visit?
Response: He did not come to visit frequently.
Do you know what happened to Dawn?
Response: I don't know. I don't know what happens to him.
Thank you. I'd like to clarify just one point in relation to the authority structure within the state warehouses. This morning you mentioned an individual called Ruong as the chairman of state warehouses. In your statement given to the researchers, the one we've been reading from, you also mentioned an individual called Rith, or Rit. Not the same person as Van Rith, but another person also called Rit. And this is found in your statement at Khmer ERN 00008343, French 008995508, and English 00710 and you said the following: the general chairperson was Rit. One section was Tang, and then a little bit further down you say at Troy Changba and Rossi Keo it was Chuan. Now this morning you said the committee was comprised of Ruong, Tang and Chuan, and in this statement it appears you are referring to Rit, Tang and Chuan. Is it possible that Rit and Ruong are the same person, or is there maybe an error in the statement?
Response: Originally, Ruong was known as Rit. Mr. Van Rit was also known as Rit, and because these two people shared the same first names, Rit decided to change his name to Ruong.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. It's very helpful. Now, in another section of your statement, you discuss the relationship between these people and Van Rith. This is at Khmer ERN 00008338, French 008995503 to 4, and English 007105556. And you said, quote, the question was asked in following terms. So was one Rit the chairman of the Commerce and another Rit the chairman of the State Warehouse? You said, quote, if we speak about the role, this Rit was smaller than Rit at the Commerce. Since before Phnom Penh fell, we were under that Rit, Commerce. Do I understand correctly that this State Warehouse Committee, and including the warehouse staff such as yourself, that you were subordinate to Van Rit?
Response. Rit, who changed his name to Ruong later on. Before that unit was sent into Phnom Penh, he used Van Rit he used the name of Van Rit. And Rương also had the same name. But when we came into Phnom Penh, Rit changed his name to Rương, and Van Rit was still the same.
And was Van Rit the superior of Rương at any point during the Democratic Kampuchea period?
Response. After we came into Phnom Penh, Rương was separated from Van Rit because Rương was in charge of the warehouse, the state warehouse, and the other one was in charge of commerce.
Thank you. Just on that, and we'll leave this topic with this last question. At Khmer ERN 00008333, French 00899499, and English 007105552. You said that you were asked the following question. Did this mean that the commerce and the state warehouse were at the same level but different unit? Answer, each was separate. The state warehouse was small, so if we speak about its rank, it was in the lower rank than the commerce. Is that correct, that the rank of the state warehouses or the Committee of State Warehouses was lower, in your understanding, than the Ministry of Commerce?
Response. That is correct.
Thank you. We've talked about the issue of arrests or instructions that were being given with respect to arrests. And I'd like to explore that with you a little bit further now. Let me ask you first, were there disappearances of people? Were there disappearances or arrests of people from the state warehouses where you worked?
Response. Regarding the arrest, yes, of course, there were arrests. But I did not see any torture. At the time, people were called to attend meeting, for example, and then they were told that they would be sent to a new location. So this is what I saw. Regarding those who were arrested, some of them came back and some of them disappeared, and I did not know how they disappeared.
Let me read this passage to you. This is at Khmer ERN 00008289, French 00899457245 and English 007105118. And you talk about the situation with respect to these arrests. You say the following: No one could know when their turn would come. Everyone was worrying for him or herself and doing whatever he or she could to avoid any mistake. A little bit further down, during that time, after any persons had been arrested, I thought they were taken to build the road. That was what I knew. But if any person was implicated by multiple previously arrested persons, that person was considered as the traitor and subsequently killed. Is that a correct statement of your knowledge at the time? Those who were implicated by several people were taken away and killed.
Response. Yes, it is correct. This is true. Of course, there were arrests. If those who had been arrested made a confession and then implicated others, the later would also be arrested when they were implicated by the previous arrested. And as I said earlier, they did not use violence when they arrested. So these people were invited to attend meetings, for example, and then they were told they would be sent to a new location, and then they disappear. So this is what I saw.
You saw the removals of people with your own eyes. Were you ever asked to hand over to security any of the people that they came to arrest? Did that ever happen?
Response. If there was a plan to arrest anyone, that plan would be kept secret. So when that person was arrested, that person would be invited to attend meeting. And after the meeting, that person would be told to prepare their clothes because they had to move to a new location. And of course, that person disappeared.
Let me read to you the following passage. At Khmer ERN 00008342, French 00899-507, and English 00710-559, you say the following, quote, "And if they wanted to arrest any person, they would come or call me on the phone telling me that they wanted this or that comrade to work with them. I then called that person from his work to meet with them." And then a little bit further, I apologize, another ERN on the same topic, Khmer 00008349, French 00899-513, and English 00710-565. Quote, "Whenever the National Security Unit came to arrest any people, they already had the names of the targeted persons in their hand. Before they came, they telephoned to tell us that they wanted to come and work with us on a specific day at a specific hour." So is that correct, Mr. Soy?
The President, Mr. Vinas, please hold on. International Counsel for Mr. Nunchia, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Maybe my learned colleague would be willing to explain how this line of questioning fits within the scope of this present trial.
We've now faced this objection on numerous occasions, Your Honours. I really think it cannot be taken seriously. These issues go to the functioning of the ministries and offices of the Democratic Kampuchea regime. This is a topic that is included in this trial. We've heard testimony all morning about the various aspects of the functioning of this warehouse, of the exporting of food and other aspects of the work of the warehouse. This is just another aspect of it, and it is relevant. It would be nonsensical in my submission to speak about these offices and their functioning and not discuss how a key policy of the CPK was being implemented within these ministries.
The President. The objection is not sustained. The witness, you have to respond to the question put by the co-prosecutor.
សូមឲ្យលោកតាំងសំណួរម្ដងទៀតបាទ
Respond. Please repeat your question.
My question was simply, is it true that, as you said in those passages, the National Security Unit would make contact with your state warehouse to inform you that they were coming to carry out arrests, and that upon their arrival you would assist in calling those who were to be taken away?
Respond. That is correct.
Thank you. And just one brief passage also, continuing on from the last passage I read to you. Quote, they told us to call this or that comrade for them so that they could do some little work with him or her in a meeting. When they called someone to a meeting like that, it meant they arrested him or her. Question, did everybody realize that's how it would happen? Answer, yes, they did. Whenever the persons were called from their workplace to a meeting, they were terrified. And a little bit further down, they knew that they were being arrested, but not sure if they would be definitely killed. But they knew that if they were called from their work to a meeting, they were being arrested. So do I take it from that passage that there was knowledge within the workforce at the state warehouse? People knew that if they were called away to a meeting, that meant they were being arrested, and there was a climate of fear as a result of that. Is that correct?
The President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I keep insisting, but particularly now I'm wondering what the climate of fear has to do with communication and structures.
I will move on, Your Honours. I'll indulge my friend. We have limited time. It is relevant, but given the time, I'll move on to other topics because we have a lot to cover. Khmer ERN 00008352, French 00899-516, and English 00710-567. Question: when the National Security contacted RIF at the State Warehouse saying that they needed this or that person, did he ever object to their request? Response: no, because there were names and order from the upper echelon. How could he object? Mr. Rith was the chairman of a small warehouse only. How could he object the order from the big shot? Question: who followed the upper echelon's order and came to arrest people? Answer: the National Security. Very briefly on this, and tell us if you don't know the answer, but I'll ask you. Was it your understanding that the National Security, in coming to arrest people, was working on orders of an upper echelon?
Response. Yes, this is correct.
Did you know who that upper echelon was?
Response. Regarding your question, after that incident happened, I did not know about that arrest before Mr. Rương at all. Mr. Rương called me through mobile phone or the fixed phone. He told me to call this person or that person to attend this meeting or that meeting. So what I had to do is to tell that person, and that's all. And I do not know whether that person was arrested or not. But I noticed that after that person was called to attend a meeting, that person disappeared.
Thank you. I'm going to move to a completely different topic. And again, I'm going to try and be brief here. This morning, when you were questioned by my colleagues on the opposite side, you talked about the event or the study session at which a tape was played of Khoi Thun's confession. As my learned friend read to you, in your interview with OCIJ, you asserted that Khieu Samphan was not present when this tape was played. But you also discussed this same event twice on previous occasions with the researchers. The first time was in 2003, so 5 years prior to the OCIJ interview, and this is how you described the event. This is document 19.158, Khmer ERN 00899-4, I apologize, Khmer ERN 00008300, French ERN 00899-468-9, and English 00710-527. And I'm going to read word for word what you said and what questions were asked. Question: at that time, did they accuse Khoi Thun of being an agent or in a string? Answer: they had the document and audio cassette about Khoi Thun. When Khieu Samphan called me to attend a study session, he played the cassette of Khoi Thun confession for us to listen to. Question: did he play the cassette for you to listen to? Answer: he played the cassette of Khoi Thun. do you agree with me that in your first statement in 2003, you in fact described Khieu Samphan as not only being present at this meeting, but also being the person who played the tape?
Respond. The President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. Counsel, for Mr. Khieu Samphan, you may proceed. Counsel. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like the co-prosecutor to examine the text, the document in Khmer. In that document, witness did not say that Khieu Samphan played the tape, so I would like the examination of the document again.
Your Honours, I have that document here, and I'm happy to hand it to the witness if you so prefer. But I am reading from the court's official translation, and the words I read are taken directly from the translation. So I can proceed however you prefer. I can give him the document, and that can be read by him alongside me, or perhaps my colleague can read the relevant page, however you wish to proceed.
The President, please show the identity of the document again.
Yes, Your Honours, this is the interview that the witness confirmed he had with the researchers from DCCAM. It is document 19.158. It actually contains two interviews, one from 2003 and one from 2004. And this is the document that I've been reading from, and the witness has been confirming its authenticity.
The President, Mr. Witness, have you seen that document? Counsel for Mr. Khieu Samphan also mentioned the same issue, and the chamber did not allow that. This document was produced by the DCCAM official, and it was compiled by the officials over here. So Mr. Witness has never seen that document at all. But of course, you can refer to that document, you can extract some content from that document, and then you can put a question to the witness.
Mr. President, then the way I propose to proceed is to have my colleague, my Khmer colleague, read this particular passage in Khmer, and it can be translated into English, and that way we can verify. If there is an inaccuracy, then we are happy to concede that. So I'll just confer with my colleague very briefly and have that read.
The President, you may proceed. National Co-Prosecutor, thank you, Mr. President. Soy, through my analysis and understanding, Eun was Koi Thun's subordinate. Sechia, was Koi Thun accused of being a spy? Soy, with regard to Koi Thun, there was tape recording that was played when during a study session when Mr. Kyu Sampon was present. Question: was the tape played? Response: yes, it was. The confession was played to the participants. Question: what was the confession about? Response: I do not remember the detail of this, but I remember for sure that there was a plan, there was several attempts to topple down Pol Pot, but they were not successful. Thank you, Mr. President. Counsel for Mr. Kyu Sampon, you may proceed. Counsel Kong Som-on. Thank you, Mr. President. If possible, we would like the co-prosecutor to be more precise, because here in this text it reads that the tape was played, but who played the tape, the recording? It was not necessarily played by Kyu Sampon. It could have been played by people who attended the meeting. The President, the argument is plausible indeed, because as in Khmer it reads that the tape was played in this passive form, and that we don't know who actually was behind the playing of the tape recording, and that Mr. Soi said in that statement from the Khmer reading that he was attending the session when Kyu Sampon was also present, and that does not really say exactly that Kyu Sampon was playing the tape recording.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll proceed in that manner then. First then, Mr. Soi, do you agree that in that statement you said the tape of Khoi Thun's confession was played in a session that was attended by Kyu Sampon?
Response: I wish to clarify this. I did take the oath, and my testimony is obviously under oath. I recall having said like this, and I said that the tape recording was played, and it was Nuon Chia who played the tape.
Thank you. But is it correct, as you said in that first statement in 2003, that Kyu Sampon was present when the tape was played?
Response: I think perhaps there was a kind of miscommunication already in that interview. I didn't say that Kyu Sampon was present in the session when the tape was played. I think the interviewers could have mistaken.
Well, let's look at a subsequent interview that you gave, again with DC Cam. This is part of the same document. Now at Khmer ERN 00899-502. I apologize again, that was the French ERN 00899-502, Khmer 00008337, and English 00710-555. Question, and you're being asked about the same meeting now, this is in 2004. Did Kyu Sampon call the meeting? Answer: yes, there was a meeting. But sorry, let me refresh my memory. When they called us to that meeting, they played an audio cassette of Khoi Thun for us to listen. But I can be confused about who was the person who played that cassette then. It was either Kyu Sampon or Nuon Chia. Do you recall saying that in 2004, that it was either Kyu Sampon or Nuon Chia that played the tape?
Response: Yes, I do. Nonetheless, later on, I remember this vivid memory, and that it was Nuon Chia who played the tape, not Khieu Samphan.
Thank you. That's sufficiently clear, Mr. Soy. And just a last couple of questions before I end my questioning of you, Mr. Soy. You said this morning that you didn't think Mr. Khieu Samphan was one of the top leaders, and my friends read to you from other witness statements. Were you aware that in these proceedings Mr. Khieu Samphan has made a statement confirming that he was a member of the Central Committee of the party? Were you aware of that?
Response: There is one point I wish to clarify. I understand that Mr. Khieu Samphan, whether he belonged to the Standing Committee or the Central Committee, is not my knowledge. I have heard, or I knew that he was the president of the State Presidium. Nonetheless, whatever decision was made could have been rendered by the party. I am not really here to act in favor of him, but the truth is that whenever he was called to attend a meeting, we could never hear him say anything other than asking us to properly manage the materials in the warehouses. It's more about maintaining the materials at the warehouses.
Thank you, Mr. Soy. In the interest of time, I'll stop there. Thank you very much, and thank you, Your Honours.
Thank you, Counsel for Khieu Samphan. You may proceed.
One point, Mr. President. In the way the co-prosecutor put his question, it seemed to suggest that I might have quoted another witness this morning, but I was not doing that. There was no other witness I was quoting. I don't know where this misunderstanding arose from, but I heard a reference to a statement by another witness, but no, I was only quoting this witness this morning. That's the only point I wanted to raise. Thank you.
The President, International Co-Prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Just so the record is complete and accurate, it was Mr. Khieu Samphan's National Counsel who read from a witness statement, so the references was to my learned friend's colleague. Thank you.
The President, thank you. It is now appropriate moment for adjournment. The chamber will adjourn for 20 minutes. The next session will resume at 5 to 3. Court officer is now directed to assist the witness during this adjournment and have him return to the courtroom by 2:55.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ